keeps the game out of reach.
Deficit is 4. Durant pulls the 3. Missed it.
Hey guys, this is Dominique Wilkins.
Hey, this is Sean Kemp.
This is Gary Payton.
Hey, this is Pau Gasol.
NBA fans, what's up? This is Vince Carter here.
Hey, what's up? This is Matt Barnes. If you're an old school NBA fan like I am, make sure you check out the Basketball Time Machine with my man Sean David.
Hello and good day, everyone. Welcome back to the Basketball Time Machine. My name is Sean David. Thanks for tuning in. Let's talk some NBA basketball. In today's episode, I want to take a look at the current season's playoffs and give you my take, what I'm taking from the first couple of games. But before we dive into that, let me ask you guys for a small favor. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the show and also like the video if you enjoy the content. And I would say enough said, let's get right into it. So where do we start? Now, for those of you who watch my show on a regular basis, you guys know that I have a hard time watching today's NBA. And just to be clear, it's not that I really enjoy hating today's NBA, because deep inside, I'm still an NBA fan. I mean, I grew up watching the NBA since I was like 8 years old, and I have that desire to still enjoy NBA basketball. I still need it. I still want to enjoy it, but it's just so hard. The reasons are obvious. NBA got soft. Players are always changing teams. You don't have a healthy balance. Guys are joining up to form super teams. The league simply got boring. Anyway, so even though I still have a hard time watching NBA's basketball, I at least watch the playoffs. And I also watch a couple of games during the season because I'm still waiting for the turning point where I enjoy NBA basketball. And starting to watch the playoffs right now, I got to be honest, I was shocked. And not as usual in a bad way, actually in a positive way. The games are almost fun to watch. And yeah, I mean, I'm a kind of person, I give credit where credit is due. Like, if you do a good job, I'm the first person to congratulate you and say, hey, good job. And I want to start off with the series between the Brooklyn Nets and the Boston Celtics. Now, obviously, I was happy, for example, when the Lakers did not make the playoffs because I have a hard time. I'm not rooting for the super teams. I'm not rooting for the teams where players are joining forces in order to have an easy way to win a championship. So because of that, I also did not want to, I didn't want the Brooklyn Nets to win. So when I saw the series and I saw how the Boston Celtics played, I could not believe it. That was almost basketball like from the 1990s. They played really hard-nosed, tough defense. They made life miserable for the Nets. I mean, there's a reason why Kevin Durant shot so poorly. And some people say it's because he got tired and he was exhausted because he played so many heavy minutes. And I'm not saying that it's not true. It could really be. But to me, I think it did not happen that often that Kevin Durant was playing against such a high level of defense, old school defense. And because he was not used to that, I personally think that this was the reason why he was struggling. Could be that fatigue played a small factor. I will give him that. But I think it was the tough defense that he was not used to. So then another thing which I liked about the Boston Celtics, the tenacity that they played on offense and also the team basketball. They were not only jacking up threes, they were taking mid-range jumpers, they were taking threes, they were having post moves. They had a healthy balance on their offense, and this is something that I can easily get on board with. Like, if most teams would play that way, I would not even complain about the NBA, today's NBA. So I was positively surprised, and I was very, very happy. And I was also happy that the Boston Celtics swept the Brooklyn Nets, because that shows, for all those haters who say, old school basketball was not as good as today's basketball, it just shows if you play old school type of basketball with hard-nosed defense, double teaming, being tenacious, playing good team basketball, have a healthy balance on offense, that you still can be successful. How successful? Well, at least so successful that you sweep the Brooklyn Nets, who were considered to be the favorites.
And Ben Simmons comes in and you never see him in uniform. But you guys put it into perspective for me, how big a disappointment this team was this year.
In order to win a championship, Kenny alluded to this earlier, everything has to be in sync. One, you got to play together. You got to get to know each other. Two, you got to be healthy. There was a lot going on, with the Kyrie thing, and Joe Harris is not out, and they started off with the big three, and James wasn't happy, and then they moved on. So it was a whole bunch of different lineups. But when you are a superstar, nobody cares about the excuses. When you're a superstar and you're a big-name superstar, they expect you to win. Out of all the legends, I probably got swept the most. So what that should tell you is that when you get swept, is you're not that good.
Another reason why I actually like the playoffs this time is that the games are not one-sided. You have many matchups that are really, really competitive, and that is something that I've been waiting for such a long time. And there are a couple of teams that I actually enjoy the way how they play right now. Now, I got to be honest, I was rooting for the Milwaukee Bucks when they won the NBA championship recently, and I'm also still rooting for them. But there's actually one team that I really wanted to win a championship, and this is the Phoenix Suns. And I never was a Phoenix Suns fan. I mean, I loved Barkley back in the days, and Kevin Johnson, Dan Marley, and those guys, but they were never my number one team. But the way that Chris Paul and Devin Booker and Ayton are playing, they are playing a good type of basketball, and this is something that I can not only watch, but I can also enjoy. And I also wanted Chris Paul and Devin Booker to win a championship. Why? To me, Chris Paul is probably the last true point guard that we will see. Like we always talk about score first point guards in nowadays NBA, and that point guards are more aiming to score than to pass. And Chris Paul, to me, has still this old school mentality in getting your teammates involved. That is the main priority, and then trying to score. So I want this guy to win a championship. I think he deserved it. He really, really deserved it. And Devin Booker, to me, is one of the most underrated players in today's NBA. That he's not winning the MVP, to me, is a crime. Like, you're playing for the best team in the regular season. You are carrying the team even when Chris Paul is out, and you're still winning like crazy, and you're still not winning the MVP. To me, that is a crime. And I understand that there are some other good players who also deserved to be in the conversation, but Devin Booker was definitely my MVP, no question. So I would like the Suns to win it all, or at least make the NBA Finals. Like, for example, the Suns versus the Bucks would be very interesting to me to see that matchup, obviously because of the history. Then in the Eastern Conference, obviously we have the Miami Heat. But the other team, which is my dark horse, and which I'm really enjoying right now, is the Toronto Raptors. And I tell you why. Because everybody was expecting the Philadelphia 76ers to kill them, and the Toronto Raptors are playing like crazy. They're really balling out. And I can see that the Philadelphia 76ers are getting nervous. And I don't know. I mean, this video is coming out basically a few hours before they will have Game 6. So I don't know what happens. But just to see that the Philadelphia 76ers are getting nervous and they're starting to talk bad about each other in the media. Joel Embiid obviously talking about James Harden in a kind of negative way, and talking about Doc Rivers in a pretty interesting way. So that already shows me that they are mentally not where they're supposed to be. And I actually wish for the Toronto Raptors to beat the 76ers. And I got to be honest, this is 100% my truth. I don't want James Harden to win a championship. I don't want a player who doesn't play defense and who's hugging the ball. I don't want this guy to win a championship. And I'm not criticizing him as a human being. I don't know him personally. Could be that he's the nicest guy on earth, so I'm not saying anything about that, but as a basketball player, I don't want such a player to win a championship. Anyway, so to make a long story short, If you haven't watched the playoffs this year and you have been waiting for basketball to be enjoyable again, this might be the players that you actually can give a shot, because I personally, as an old school fan, as a person that has a hard time enjoying today's NBA, I can actually watch it for the first time in many, many years. So give it a shot, and please let me know in the comments below, how do you feel about today's playoffs? All right, you guys, that was it for today's episode. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time on the Basketball Time Machine.